Thank you for joining us today for this Gifts of God program and this Sunday talk. We've dug into the text, you've probably noticed, and it's going pretty well. It's not as daunting as I thought it was going to be. We're just taking it one step at a time. But I am noticing the podcasts are longer. Usually the podcasts were like 15 minutes, sometimes 12 minutes, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but now they're like 22 minutes, 27 minutes, so close to a half an hour. So I hope that's not throwing you guys for a loop, because, you know, the text is so much deeper and more things to kind of consider and say, and even the language, just the language itself has so much more to comment on. I wanted to comment on this one principle, number 32, and I wanted to read that and start off with that. So we started with chapter 1, and the first chapter is the meaning of miracles, and then the first section of that is the principles of miracles. You know, Tarsing used to emphasize a lot. He would talk about the 50 principles and say, you know, like, you got to get those down, or the rest of the book is not gonna get through. So you have to really be kind of mastered of these 50 principles, and he would talk about them himself quite a lot. So this one 32, it's got so much in it. It says, I inspire all miracles, which are really intercessions. Well, right there, you know, it may be the first time in the whole book. Yeah, I think it is. It's the first time in the whole book the pronoun I is used, right? So it says, I inspire all miracles. Well, let's just say somebody who picks up the book and they've never heard of it before, and they don't know any of the background, and all of a sudden they're reading this thing called A Course in Miracles, and then it says, I inspire miracles. Well, wouldn't you first ask, well, who is it? Who is the I who's inspiring miracles? Well, obviously it's the Christ. So it's the Christ. I think, you know, we can safely say in this case, it's Jesus, the Christ, speaking, of course, to Dr. Schuckman, who wrote it down, but he's also speaking to us. So it sets up a relationship between Jesus and us. And I'm not even sure in the Bible if the pronoun I is used. You know, when somebody is recounting some of his miracles and his experiences, they're talking about Jesus, and then he said this and he said that. So there are words which are in quotation marks, but he doesn't ever say, I am giving you something, because that puts it in present time. That puts it directly in present time, where it's a character, I, giving you something. And I inspire all miracles, which are really intercessions. They intercede for your holiness. Okay, so now that's also very direct. It's also, you can't deny the fact that it's I speaking to you, right? It's an I speaking to you. And that will be so whenever you pick the book up. Like I like to say, the Course in Miracles is something outside of time. and it's unaffected by time, meaning you could pick the course up 200 years from now or 1,000 years from now, and it will still be talking in present time. It will be relevant to whoever is reading it in that exact time 1,000 years later. And that is a very unique quality that the course has that I don't think any other scripture quite has that. It's in present time, speaking in the I to you. And that will always be so. It's not ever going to change. So that makes it very unique. And so, yeah, so we can really say truthfully that when we're students of the Course in Miracles, we have a very direct relationship with the Christ. It's right there. The whole thing is Christ talking to us. And that's really quite remarkable, isn't it? Because you don't really need anybody in between. You don't need a priest, you don't need a minister, you don't need a teacher per se. Although, I had Tara sing and that was very valuable. If you were really with it and you got what this Course in Miracles is, you wouldn't even need that, right? Because Jesus is the teacher. He's the master teacher. So he's right there. And it's such a direct relationship. And he's even said right here, well, I'm going to intercede for you if you screw up. and kind of, undo and erase and correct whatever your screw up is. So I'm here to intercede for you if you need it. So I inspire all miracles, which are really intercessions. They intercede for your holiness and make your perceptions holy. So that's what the miracle is doing. It's like we're caught up in our kind of everyday flow of things and, attaching all of our judgments, all of our grievances, all of our assessments, all of our, everything to whatever it is we're doing, and forgetting that there's this kind of holiness that binds all things together, us in all of our different levels of being, and us with, our people around us, and us with the world at large and every human being on the planet, right? So, and then if you take it even farther, it's like us with every atom, every molecule in the universe. So this kind of wholeness, this kind of oneness, and that, yes, this kind of holiness, it's the miracle is restoring our awareness to that. This wholeness, this holiness, this ever increasing parameter of our being. Like we have a notion of who we are that's kind of a personality, a kind of small entity, and the Course calls that an ego, but then it tries to get us to see that we're greater than that and we're beyond that and we're connected to this larger reality, right? And more powerful reality. And that is the holiness, and that is the wholeness. And it's this kind of ever increasing, it's like we think we have a boundary, but then the Course breaks that down and the boundary is like maybe out there a little more and then out there until finally there is no boundary. There is no limitation. It says, I'm in need of nothing but the truth. 251, the Son of God's my identity. Then it says, myself is ruler of the universe. Well, how much bigger could you get than that? I I mean, it's like if you're really attuned to the language and you're really receiving it and you're really applying it, the miracle is going to take you to greater and greater wholeness and greater expanse until space and time are even undone. So that's a blessing. And I don't think there's any scripture on the planet that can do that as well as the Course in Miracles can do that. Introduce us to that holiness. I mean, it uses the word holiness, but it also gets us into a direct contact with it. Plenty of churches, you can go to church until you're blue in the face and they'll all talk about holiness, right? They're all going to say, oh, this is a sacred place and we're going to, have a mass and it's all going to be holy and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. But you can go through all those rituals and have no contact whatsoever with holiness. And that's really quite amazing, that you could go through all that and create all that, everything, and still not make the contact. Well, then here comes A Course in Miracles, and it says, well, we don't need a church. We don't need a building. We don't need, an order of ministers or priests or any of that thing. And you can just have this conversation with Jesus and immediately get in touch with your holiness if you're in the right frame of mind. And I think, yes, there is a right frame of mind. You have to have deep reverence for what the thing is, and you have to have a certainty about it. Like, well, do we think that this is Jesus talking to us? Or is it just another new agey book, Or is it something we listen to and take in and respond to and make the inner corrections that are necessary to have the miracle? There are challenges, but they're so clear what's offered. I like to say it's the easiest thing in the world and it's the hardest thing in the world, because it's easy in that all you have to do is listen to the word and just let it come in and accept it and alter your consciousness. But it's hard in that there's so much resistance, because there's a dismantling of a self we made up. We made a self up that has all kinds of quirks and foibles and conflicts and dissatisfactions and preferences and choices and likes and dislikes. And now we're trying to get to this self that's beyond all that, and we think, oh, well, we got to sacrifice this thing that we're so accustomed to, and then the unwillingness comes up. So we've got, on one hand, this Course in Miracles offering us miracles that all we have to do is read it and let it in, right? How much simpler could that be? And then on the other hand, we have this self we made up that we're just like, clinging to and don't want to let go of, even though we know that there's something about that thing we made up that's very self-destructive. Even though we know that, we still don't want to let go. Tarji used to tell this wonderful story. And, he was from India, and he grew up in a village, at least in his early years. And then his father was in Panama. He was a businessman, and he brought the family over to Panama when Tarji was about 9. But he lived in the village in the Punjab till he was, 9 or 10. And he said he had this wonderful uncle, and his uncle was just like his buddy, and they would do all kinds of fun things. And he talked about this, there's a lot of monkeys in India, right? No matter where you go, you see monkeys everywhere. So he said they had this way of catching a monkey. And you wouldn't believe it, but this is how they did it. They took a coconut, right? And they put a string around it, coconut shell. And then they drilled a little hole in the side. And then they put this sort of rope around the coconut. And then they put a little goodie inside the coconut shell, like a very, something that was very attractive to monkeys, and that the monkey could smell it, and the monkey would know there's this goodie inside of the shell. So what the monkey would do would be, he would smell the goodie, right? And they'd have the shell and then this long rope. So they wouldn't be anywhere near the shell, but it'd be on a rope. And the monkey would smell the goodie, and he'd go up to the shell and he'd stick his hand in the hole, right, to get the goodie. But when he got the hand in the shell and he grabbed the goodie, it's like his fist now with the goodie in it, because the goodie was big, and he'd grab the goodie, and then he couldn't pull his hand out of the shell, because with the goodie, it made his hand too big now to get out the hole. And wouldn't you know, he would not let go of the goodie, even knowing that they were going to pull the rope in now and catch him, and he just, no matter what, would not let go of that goodie. And Tara Singh said, well, that's what our ego is. Our ego is the monkey that, even though we're hanging on to something that we know is going to be our ultimate demise, we just do not want to let it go, no matter what. And Tarji called that unwillingness. So anyhow, that's what we have to cope with when we're reading these things in the Course in Miracles. It's like the clarity comes through, the light comes through. It's so beautiful. It's like, what would you do if you really knew that Jesus was there for you to intercede in any problem that you ever had in the rest of your life and give you a miracle? Because that's what that's saying. I inspire all miracles, which are really intercessions, and they intercede for your holiness and make your perceptions holy. By placing you beyond the physical laws, they raise you into the sphere of celestial order. In this order, you are perfect. Now, there you go. The miracle gets you into this other state of being, and he calls it celestial order. And in that celestial order, your perfection is apparent. It's absolutely clear. It's absolutely certain. You don't have a problem in life at all. No problem whatsoever in that state of awareness. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Celestial order. The miracle puts us in a state of celestial order that we are aware of our perfection. Wouldn't that be nice? Can we receive it? So I wanted to explore today if we can receive it and receive it now, like in this hour that we're getting together. It's not something that we put on the shelf till later, or we have certain conditions that we have to meet, or things that we have to learn in order to prepare ourselves to receive this boon of celestial order. No, it says the order is right here now. The celestial order is right here now. Your perfection is right here now. And with the miracle, you can make the contact with it. And it will intercede for any obstacle that you see, in your life that's not producing perfect happiness. And it could be something you're feeling in your body. For a few weeks now, we've had to process and look at pain in the body, certain pain in the body. And, the doctors will tell you it's one thing, and they'll give you this remedy and that remedy. But there you are, you're still having to deal with the pain. And so what is that like, and why is that? And none of us want to be in pain, right? None of us want that kind of experience, but we find ourselves in that. And then we need a little help, we need a little help. So we go to doctors, we go to, we step up our prayers, whatever it is we do, take a few supplements, whatever it is, take a painkiller. There's many things we can do. But what is the miracle that is to take place in this situation? To restore us back to celestial order, celestial, that connection with the perfection that it just said you are. In that celestial order, you're perfect. And also it said, and I think this is very important, and because now it's talking about this quite a lot, by placing you beyond the physical laws. What would that be about? Placing you beyond physical laws. If you go to a doctor and a medical doctor, they're going to have your history, over the years. They keep a record of everything. And not only are they going to have your history, but they're going to have the history of 1,000 people with the same condition you have, right? Or whatever it is. And they've studied the disease, so to speak. So then they have this history of how this thing behaves. And then they make these conclusions based on like the examples of 1,000 times people having this condition and what happened, right? So then they'll say, oh, well, this disease is incurable based on the fact of all the histories that they've taken of people having a similar condition, right? So then they give you these diagnoses and they'll say blah, blah, blah. And, oh, you can't get over that. We can do this, that, and the other, but it's an incurable disease. And eventually you're going to need X, whatever it is, bypass surgery or a hip replacement or whatever. They've prepared in their mind that this is going to happen. And then this is going to be the result. And this is the best we can do treating you. And you're probably going to have pain anyway, no matter what. It's pretty dismal, isn't it? And then the end result is, if you take the big picture, like the biggest picture, what they're really saying is, and you're going to die, and we can't stop it, no matter what. Isn't that the end result that they're saying is like, you're going to get this, and this, and it's inevitable, and then you're going to just, get a disease or something that kills you, and you're dead. So, all right. Now, this miracle is talking about transcending physical laws and transcending the very data that science has accumulated by placing you beyond the physical laws. Now it's talking about miracles. It's talking about Jesus actually interceding for you with miracles. And it's talking about taking you beyond the physical laws that raise you into a sphere of celestial order. In this order, you are perfect. I mean, we could meditate on that number 32 for days and get high as a kite on the truth of that, right? It's either true or not true. The Course is very black and white in that way. It speaks in absolutes. And then it also describes the relative, which is the ego, and all of the ups and downs and the goods and the evils and all that dichotomy of the ego. There's probably no better book that can describe that better than the Course in Miracles. So it's being very honest about our thought system that we use most of the time. But then it's also very certain about this other thought system that's absolute, that takes you into the sphere of celestial order. I mean, you could just write that on a card, right? The sphere of celestial order, and then spend all week putting your mind in there, putting yourself in there, right? Let's not assume we know what it is. That was always beautiful about Krishnamurti. He would always start his talks and he would say, we have to start from the unknown. We have to start not assuming we know. Even if we have a question, and it's a real question, well, what is a miracle? That's kind of what these 50 principles are. They're answering the question, what is a miracle? And that would be your first question. If you're doing a Course in Miracles, your first question would be, well, what is a miracle? Well, then it gives you 50 different views of what a miracle is, right? Okay. But you have to start with, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I have a question, but I don't know the answer. And I'm not going to use what I know to get the answer. All right, so let's just take this phrase, the sphere of celestial order. I mean, it sounds very poetic and it sounds very beautiful. It sounds also very attractive. It's like, it kind of draws us, in. Just that word alone, the sphere of celestial order. It's like, oh, I always love that phrase, the gates of heaven, or the lawn in front of the gates of heaven. Just that image alone, it's like, wow, you just want to go there and lay your head down in the grass, and this sphere of celestial order, it's like, wow, it must be full of angels. I mean, it must be so crowded with angels, you can probably hardly get in there yourself because it's so full of angelic order and angelic beings, and and they probably play Mozart there. They probably play the most beautiful music, and the sphere. You hear this music of the spheres, celestial order. So we have those images, right? But let's not assume we know that's what it is. And just commit ourselves this week to just this one principle, like our perfection in this sphere of celestial order rises above physical laws. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, you've got a disease and it's incurable and da-da-da. Okay, well, just use our basic affirmation. Even though I made a mistake, I still completely love and accept myself, right? So, hey, even though I find myself with this condition or this pain or this whatever, I still completely love and accept myself. And I know I deserve to be in the celestial order where my perfection is guaranteed, which would be transcendent of any condition. It would be transcendent of pain or a quote unquote diagnosis. And that's the real healing. But see, if we can't take our mind there first, how do we expect our body to follow suit? You know, this psychotherapy that we just looked at, and I assume you all listen to those podcasts. You know, the first thing it said was, you know, all illness is mental illness. Starts in the mind. I mean, it was very absolutely clear about that. And then it says, well, yeah, and what's really in the mind causing your illness is unforgiveness and guilt. You know, okay, it was really clear about that. And then it was like, well, okay, you call yourself a practitioner or a therapist, but what's really happening here is your patients are showing you how screwed up you are, and you need to forgive yourself. So there were some you know, cold hard facts in that essay that we needed to hear, especially we who are quote unquote practitioners of healing modalities. But I'm trying to get us to go even farther. Like, we don't want to be just quote unquote students of miracles. We want to have them happening in our life, right? They're not some like, okay, good idea or sort of mythical things that we can aspire to, but maybe we don't ever have an experience of it. You know, no, it's like, okay, we're students of the Course in Miracles, but bring them on. Let's have them. Let's experience them. Let's have the demonstration of the good work we're doing on our mind. You know, we spend a lot of attention studying this thing called A Course in Miracles. So we've given a lot of man hours to reshaping our mind around certain concepts. And they've been very specific. And we've given a lot of attention to that. So I don't think there's one of us here who hasn't given attention to the spiritual truth inside of us, and of which this Course in Miracles is representing. So we put in our time, we put in our attention, and now it's almost we're at the point where we have to demand of ourselves and of those forces the actualization of the miracles. And we may be given tests, so to speak. You know, okay, well, you got this little pain in your hip, and what are you going to do about it? Okay, I might need to do some different things, a different exercise, a different diet, a different blah, blah, blah. And I'm willing to do that. But you also need to get in your mind that, okay, well, there's some beliefs that you have to let go of. And there's this faith in the healing process that has to happen that maybe we've been conditioned not even to have. For so many of us, we've been conditioned to go to doctors and listen to them as the quote unquote last word, wise authority. And they're giving us these sort of dead end statements that aren't very uplifting. They certainly don't take you into celestial order or the sphere of celestial order, and they don't transcend physical laws, right? But willy-nilly, we believe they're true, and we set them up as the authority. So that whole thing, that whole dynamic has to be questioned in order to have the miracles, right? I remember my mother, she absolutely wanted me to be a doctor, right? She even named me, my name was Mark Dean. Dean was my uncle. So she named me Mark Dean. So my first initials would be MD. And she said, yeah, so when you're a doctor, on your door, it'll say MD Sullivan, MD. MD Sullivan, MD. And it was like intentional, right? So it's like she had such a faith and trust and absolute almost surrender to doctors that it was unbelievable. And it actually, and I witnessed her later years, the decline in her faith at the expense of doing what the doctors say, and it was a decline in her faith. So even though she was a devout Methodist, she didn't have access to that connection. You see what I'm saying? She didn't have access to her own holiness. And she was a churchgoer, man. Every Sunday, it was expected in our house. Every Sunday we went to church. We did Sunday school. We did the church service, and did some extracurricular things with the church. Not a whole lot, but some. So she was actively involved in a religion, organized religion. So then why in her later years, when she really needed that connection, it just wasn't even there. It wasn't even there. And like everything then just became, well, what does the doctor say? What does the doctor want me to take? And what does the doctor want me to do? And so it became that. And then at that point, you're just a body, at that point. You're just a body subject to, chemical influences. And it was sad for me to see that. But that's not what we're doing here. We're making the contact. We're making the contact directly. When it says, I am the one who can intercede for you. The miracles are here and they're intercessions. I inspire them. I inspire miracles, which are really intercessions. They intercede for your holiness and make your perceptions holy. All right, so you're going to see a bigger picture now, right? You're going to see everything in terms of holiness. Everything. Everything. this shirt, this tie, this everything. It's divine, you know. The cotton that had to grow in the fields, the water that had to come and rain on it, then all the people that had to produce it and pick it and then ship it and take it to wherever it was going to be made into thread and then cloth. And then, you know, somebody had to design the color and the pigment. And it's just amazing to think, how did this shirt even come about, you know? And that is holiness, because it's connected to everything. And you're going to start seeing everything like that. And you're going to, like, just one breath is life. One breath is complete gratitude in one breath. And you're getting in touch with the holiness, and you're getting in touch with the sphere of celestial order. You know, the sphere of celestial order, it has no boundaries. It's like, it's in the smallest minute grain of sand, and it's in the largest galaxy. And there's no separation, there's no division, there's no, oh, one is bigger than another or better than another or more complex than no, it's just all part of that celestial order that has no division. It's just one continuous divine field of creation. And that's where the miracles come out of that. We have to be aware of that in order to have the miracles. And that transcends even physical laws. Because if you take it all the way, what drives that? You know, you've got the celestial order, right? And order is just a relationship. It's like how things relate, right? It's like when you don't put your clothes away and it's all over the floor and not hung up in the closet, it's kind of chaotic, right? And it doesn't relate too well. But when you put them neatly on hangers and you put them in the closet, there's an order. It's how they're relating. You know, it's still if the clothes are on the floor, they're still the same clothes, but they're relating now to the closet, and they're relating to the hanger, and they're relating to, you know, an order. So the order is not the stuff, the order is how it all relates together. So then you have everything, every molecule in the universe, but then the way it's structured and very related, it's so orderly, so beautiful, so perfect, you know? And that's what it says. When you enter into the celestial order, in this order, you are perfect. You are perfect. That's like Jesus telling you, you are perfect. We can't underestimate the power of that if we really see it. I mean, let's just get real about it. If you went to a doctor and a doctor prescribed heroin to you and you had to take it, you would know that's got a very strong power, right? You would expect whatever that thing you take is going to be powerful. Now, do you have the same expectation with this statement? Miracles will take you into celestial order, and in that order, you're going to be perfect. Do you expect the power of those words come through you? because we have to. If we want the miracles, we have to get in touch with the Word and the power of the Word. You know, there's even a lesson, I can't think of the number of it. I think it's 355. There is no end to all the peace and joy and all the miracles that I will have when I accept God's word. Why not today? Something like that. I might have one or two words a little off. There is no end to all the peace and joy and all the miracles that I will give. That's it. And all the miracles that I will give when I accept God's word. Why not today? So the word is absolute in the Course. It has a power. It has a power as much as heroin or ayahuasca or atomic bomb, really. Babaji said, Om Namah Shivaya. It's the most powerful utterance in the universe. It's more powerful than the atomic bomb. Well, what's Om Namah Shivaya? Is just 3 or 4 words, right? Having more power than the atomic bomb? And now this is saying, you know, you're going to enter into a celestial order, and in that order, you're going to be in touch with your perfection. Those are words. You see what I mean? It's like, as students of the Course in Miracles, we have to make demands on ourselves and to apply the words we're hearing deeper in our mind, and accepting of the fact they're true, and accepting of the fact they're having an impact on us, and they're changing us. They're restoring us. They're restoring us to celestial order. Yeah, it's a restoration kind of. You know, the intercession is when we're all kind of disorderly. Our clothes are all over the floor, right? And Jesus comes in and puts all of them on hangers and hangs them up nice and neatly. And now it's all like, you know, back in order again. And those are the garments in our mind, you know. They're the garments in our mind that we wear every day, but those garments have to be in the celestial order. And then we're accepting the word. The word is true. I see I have to apply it. I see I have to get my head together and think along these lines. And then by thinking along these lines, I may have to make some external changes too. You know, adapt my diet, adapt my whatever it is. But we're willing to do that, fine. We're doing some exercise, we're willing to do that. And then you're back in kind of this groove, you know? You're kind of in this lining up. There is no end to all the peace and joy and all the miracles that I will give when I accept God's word. Why not today? Why delay? Why not today? Because the nature of the ego is to postpone and delay. To the point where you may not be able to get yourself back, which is what happened with my mom. You know, it's like she so believed in the system, so went only the medical route. And it's not like she wasn't religious. She was. I mean, she went to church quite a lot up to the last few years, but there was then something that she lost the contact, and it didn't serve her anymore. And I don't want us to fall into that. It's like we have to maintain the contact, and it doesn't require a church. And it doesn't require a priest, doesn't require a minister. It's just our relationship to the word that we're hearing Jesus tell us in this Course in Miracles, and he's our teacher, and we're receiving it, and we have a relationship and a responsibility to bring the word into application, and it will make a difference. And then we'll see this. We'll not only see the miracles, we'll feel them, we'll touch them, we'll experience them. It's time for us to have the miracles. It's time. We've come this far, and this is a step we need to take now. It's time. We're needed. Yes. And the timing was good. So, yeah. Well, I'm enjoying these, and I'm enjoying making the YouTubes. And I hope some of you are listening to the YouTubes. I put a lot of energy into getting those up there. I listen to them myself again because I need to hear the same things you're hearing. And yeah, it's wonderful. I'm even getting color coordinated with my background. So, yeah. And I was so proud. I had this blue microphone. They call it a Blue Yeti, right? I thought, oh, wow, that's very nice. It looks so nice. And well, I'll work out the bugs. It's gotta work better next time. So we'll see. And yeah, we're going to continue with the text this week and finish up these 50 principles tomorrow, and then move on to the next, whatever the next section is in chapter 1. And I'm sure there'll be miracles to embrace along the way. That was good. And just think of celestial order, right? Maybe even copy that on a card, like miracles are transcending physical laws and taking me into celestial order, the sphere of celestial order, where I am only in my perfection. Well, just that one line on a card will get you through the week. Yeah, and it'll lift you out of any difficulties you have to face. Yeah. All right. God bless you guys. I love you. Stay with it. The mantra of the age is keep up. And don't drop out. Keep up and stay with it. All right. God bless. Bye now.